Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, Christine Blasdale, and I am super excited about today's show because we're going to be tackling a subject matter that at least my clients that I work with when I do podcast training and entrepreneurial starting up businesses, when we talk about this subject, their eyes glaze over. They're like a deer in headlights, and they go, yeah, that thing. So we're going to be talking about, of course, digital marketing, SEO, and yes, no, that's not the name of a rock and roll band. It's search engine optimization with an amazing gentleman, a true out of the boxer, Jon Tromans, who is a digital marketing trainer, former broadcaster, which we have in common. Once you hear his voice, you're going to understand he was made for radio. He's also the creator of a better website for a Fiverr. And I love that. I love that name. We're going to talk about that and his program that he's got available to a global audience. He's also the host of the popular, this is a great podcast name. Okay, if you were one of my clients, I would give you an A++. The name of your podcast is called Not Another Marketing Podcast. Jon, welcome to Out of the Box.
Hey, Christine, thanks for that introduction. Yeah, thank you. They say you've got a face for radio, and that's why you do radio, don't they? Yeah.
Well, you've got a marvelous voice, and what well, obviously you are a genius in marketing because that is a great title for a podcast show. Not Another Marketing Podcast, because there's a few of them, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, I was looking down and like, if you Google marketing podcast, you just go on forever and you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's like, oh God, not another marketing podcast.
So you decided to get into a niche that was not completely overblown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the podcast kind of does it a little bit differently than a lot of other marketing podcasts. I listen to a load of them and you spend 10 minutes self-congratulatory stuff. Hi, you're so great and you're so amazing. And aren't you amazing? And yes, I'm great. And it's like, oh, just get on with it.
Tell me what I need to know.
Yeah. But in a friendly way.
Well, yeah. and the beautiful thing about having your own podcast, you can do it in the style that you like. What is always like my pet peeve, because I work with a lot of newbie podcasters, and what they do sometimes is in the very beginning they talk about themselves and they talk about what they're doing and what they like, and I'm doing this and I'm like, shut up! I want to hear from your guest. So tell our wonderful listeners and viewers on YouTube, and if you're not a subscriber, you should be. Wink, wink. But tell our wonderful listeners and viewers a little bit about how you got into marketing, and in particular, digital marketing. You're in the UK. We take it by your accent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just on the Welsh border, I can look out and see some Welsh hills, which is quite nice. Yeah.
Oh, I have a friend there. I have a friend in the Welsh area.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I'll go and try and find a hill or something to climb up in the weekends. It's quite nice. I started off in radio, as you mentioned, a long time ago now, and I think a lot of folks were getting a little bit disillusioned with radio, particularly in the UK. Sort of like around the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, radio was becoming incredibly corporate. I remember being dragged into a program controller's office one day, and he turned around and he said, "You mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger on the radio," and I said, "Yeah." I said, "It was a funny gag, wasn't it? Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it?" And he said, "Yeah. Don't mention Arnold Schwarzenegger. He doesn't test well with a 25 to 34 semi-professional female. Talk about Bruce Willis instead." Oh, and it's like, wow, this is like taking the creativity out of radio. It's taking what a lot of us actually joined radio in the first place to do, which was to be creative, to entertain, I suppose, in a way. Yes. And just at that time, sort of like late 90s, early 2000s, there was this new thing starting, which was called internet. And it was getting bigger and getting bigger. And I don't think any of us really back then looked at it as a technology. It was almost like another publishing platform. We got paper, we got TV, we got radio, and now we got this other thing that we don't really know what to do with. And I think that's how I've spoken to a lot of folks who are working radio, television back in the mid to late 90s when there was kind of like a mass buyout of radio stations in the UK, and everybody went PLC. They were all floated on the stock exchange. And radio changed drastically. I mean, it's now, I don't know, like in Australia, in the States, and that you get lots of different little radio stations, all with their own identities, and they're all got their own individual names. And you know a city, don't you, from the name of that radio station? It's got that big sound. It's that big thing. You know who it is. Well, they're all called the same now. It's all called exactly the same name. Every radio station in every town has the same name. And the identity has gone, and everything. So a lot of folks moved away from radio, which was becoming stale and corporate, and started moving into this internet thing where you could actually be creative. And that's how I really started. Kicked off, built my first website in 1996.
Whoa.
Oh, that makes me old, doesn't it? Mm.
You're not old.
And kind of went on there. And I think there were a lot of mistakes made along the way, because I think particularly in the 90s and the 2000s, we looked at the internet as technical. And there were technical people trying to be clever technically, which meant you ended up with god-awful websites. Really, those
Oh, yeah.
90s, where you got to fill. You took the paper mentality, where you got to fill every space on the page, because
I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
because I was a content consultant in the 90s for websites, and I'd go in and I'd go, what is all this? What is all this copy, all this text? Give me something to look at, because it was just going on and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were trying to pick up our printed material and just dump it exactly the same online. And we didn't treat the internet as a separate medium altogether. And I think we're doing that a lot better now. We're doing that now, to be honest. We're using the internet an awful lot better over the past, say, I don't know, I'd say probably since around the 2010, something like that. I think websites have got an awful lot better. And I think mobile phones have helped with that, because we've had to simplify our websites. You can't go click, 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 swipe, swipe, click. Oh, there it is. That you can't do any of that on a mobile phone. It's just ridiculous. So I think we've managed to simplify our websites, which has helped an awful lot. And it is getting better. There's still an awful lot and everybody can do. I mean, I could make my website better. Everybody can make their websites better. You never finish building your website. Whereas you finish a brochure, you finish a booklet, you finish your paper material, don't you? And you get it printed and it's done. Whereas a website is a different mentality, I think, where you just keep going at it all the time, never finished.
Oh, I agree. I to this day, I go back and I'll tweak things. I'll go, oh, that looks old. That looks stale. I need to update it. Yeah. But you're right. Once you go the book, I have a book too. And this book, when it's done, it's done. It's done. It's all good. I don't need to do anything else to it. But your website, you're right. Now, your specialty is really with search engine optimization. And I know, like, a lot of people, they go, what? They've heard of it. But if you're someone who's an entrepreneur, if you're someone who is a coach, a consultant, or you have a product or a service, you could have the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? But if people don't know how to find you, do you really exist? That's my question, Jon.
Yeah, absolutely. You're dead right. I mean, search engine optimization is optimizing your web pages for the search engine so they can find you, but it's not that complicated. A lot of SEO folk will let you believe it's really, really complicated, and it can get complicated. When you go to the nth degree and you're in a highly competitive market, for example, if you were selling hotel rooms in Sydney, for example,
Right.
highly competitive market, you would want to get those tiny little sort of like 0.5% improvements all the time to try and just make your website an awful lot better. But for most of us, we're not in that type of highly competitive market. We might be in a competitive market, but it might be local, for example. So it might be only around our town or around our city, or we might be doing something that's quite niche. So it's not necessarily highly competitive. And I think that's where we can do a lot of our own search engine optimization. And the whole idea of SEO, really, at the end of the day, is kind of making your content. It's making the words on the page reflect what people want, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's kind of like, if you are, let's try and think of something. If you are, I was working with a farming organization a few years ago, right? That's a good example. And there's a payment you can get off the government, and it was called, I think it was called something like single payment scheme, something like that. And that was it. Just really simple. And it was called that for like 20 years, 30 years. And then the government changed the name of it to some really long, complicated 15-word name. And and this organization, what they did was they changed all their content. They put the official name, the new name that the Department of Agriculture had set. This is the new name. This is what it's called. So they changed all of their content. Well, what they didn't understand was that their audience and the people were still searching the old name, and they weren't really appearing for that. So they moved back and started using the old name, and they started getting discovered an awful lot more in the search engine. So it's kind of looking at what your audience is searching for, what they're looking for, what they want, and looking at the intent of what they want as well. So if you buy a car, for example, you don't go on Google and say, I want to buy a car now. Just doesn't happen. You might be thinking to yourself, well, the car's getting old, I've got to get it changed. I don't really know what cars there are out there. What should I change? And you might search for different types of SUVs or something. Well, that's a search that you might never have thought of, where you can introduce your brand and you can introduce your name to somebody at that point.
Right.
So
And it's knowing the search behaviors of people. That was something that I have learned pretty recently, and it had to do with actually YouTube, because YouTube, is the second largest search engine in the world. And hold on one second, I got the weed whacker guy right there. Note to self: apparently Tuesdays at 3, he likes to. Okay, there you go. How's it going? And search engine, the YouTube is the most powerful or second most powerful search engine in the world. So people are searching for stuff on YouTube, not just videos to watch, but like answers for things. And what someone was talking about, like, it's not like Instagram where you have a hashtag and you say, I don't know, coaching or pajamas. It's what kind of pajamas will my child like?
Yeah.
So they're like almost like questions instead of just one word. And I think a lot of people just think that that's how people are going to search for you, is just with the one word. But there's millions of people. I mean, your one word could probably be in a very, very big competitive marketplace, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 70% of all searches are long. That's 70%. That's like most of the searches are like long phrases. How do I fix the pump on my washing machine? For example, you search for that anywhere and you get a YouTube video showing you how to do it from a company that can sell you a pump. And that's how you do. I was working with a company that sells kids' bikes, and they have a great article that introduces their brand to people who are looking to teach their kids how to ride a bike. And the article is about, should you get a bike with stabilizers or should you get a balance bike? Two different types of bikes. Which one's best for my kid? And they've got this great article with accompanied YouTube videos, so you can see kids actually using the bike and things. And it doesn't actually talk about their brand. It doesn't talk about their product much at all. It's on their website with their brand around it, but they're introducing their brand name and their product at a stage of the buying journey where the people don't even know what they want to buy yet. But they're answering those questions. Do I need a balance bike? Do I need a stabilizer bike? And we can sell you both if you really want one, when you've decided. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
That's a great way to look at it. It's bordering on infotainment, because it's information or education instead of that over your head sale, work with me, buy my stuff. Because let's say we're over inundated we're a little bit overstimulated at the moment with sales and buy this, buy that, right?
Yeah.
In a sea of all of that, if you can stand out and give your viewers or your listeners or the public in general, give them something that is important for them, educational, or can help them out, then
Yeah,
also you endear them in some way as well, because there's an endearing quality of like, wow, I rely on that person or that expert. They just gave me something, so I'm also, and they didn't ask for anything, so I'm also going to be a little bit more apt to listen to them again.
yeah.
And
There's always a reason why you want to buy something. It's never just the feature. It's never just the functionality. There's a reason behind the functionality. They call it benefits and features. So you sell the benefits and not the features of a product. And you should be doing this on every website, every web page you've got. If you take a pair of blue jeans, for example, if you sell jeans and you need a new pair of jeans, if you walk into a shop and you try on some jeans in the cubicle, what's the first thing you do? You pull on those jeans, those brand new jeans, you pull them on, you button them up, you breathe in and button them up, and then what's the first thing you do?
well, I always check my butt.
There you go. Absolutely bang. Yeah, you turn
It's got
around.
to look good on the butt.
Does my ass look good in these jeans? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the first thing you do. See, we put that on our website. If these are the types of jeans that fit snugly around the bottom area, then put it on the website and say, this will make your backside look great.
There you go. Solve a problem as well.
Yeah,
Solving a
absolutely.
problem is so much better than just saying, just come and buy this, because you're going to turn people off. But when you're solving a problem that maybe people didn't even know they had, maybe people don't even know they have a problem with jeans that are ill-fitting around their derriere. But
Hmm.
when you really think about it, that's the first thing you do.
It's the first thing everybody does, isn't it? They look around and you think to yourself, oh, it's not, oh dear, it's not quite like it was when it was 25, but never mind, it'll do. I think I've got another client. If you look at something on a completely different level to say blue jeans, I've got a company that sells frying ranges for hotels. So these giant mechanical frying ranges where you can just fry everything. And they have a system where you can filter the oil 3 times. So the oil lasts longer and saves you money. So they have this huge article that actually targets everybody, every type of frying range, everybody who uses a frying range. And it says, this is how you can save money on your oil. And it just so happens that it's their product that saves them. So they're not sort of like just selling the product with their triple filtration action. And that's the feature. They've got an entire article with YouTube videos and everything, all about how you can save money on oil. And again, it brings people in and it introduces people to the brand at different stages and with different problems as well.
John, I'm curious too. When you're talking about search engine optimization or SEO, and I know we kind of went over it as if we understand it. But for those people who are newbie entrepreneurs who are just now creating their website, and whatever it is, if you've got somebody building your website or if you're building it yourself, I did mine myself. And I'm not a webmaster or a technological person. I picked the easiest website platform, like almost like a coloring book, is the easiest I can, because I need to focus on other things. That's where my energy is going to go and my expertise. But explain to our wonderful listeners and viewers what SEO is, search engine optimization, in a, not a Reader's Digest version, but in a rather simplistic way, so that they understand the importance of that, paying attention to that.
Yeah, the basics of SEO are really what we've just been talking about, fulfilling your customers' needs. It's as simple as that. It's a human being that types something into Google or Bing. And that something is usually a question. It's usually quite a long phrase. They've usually got some sort of a problem. The problem could be my jeans are old and I need new jeans. Not a huge problem, but it's still a problem. And you've got to create a page that answers that question and solves that problem. And that is the fundamental thing of SEO, is almost like helping Google with the search results. Is that I'm going to give Google the content that they need to put in front of somebody's face that answers their question that they type into the search engines. Now, there's also a bit more about that. There's the kind of like a slightly technical side of SEO when you're talking about title tags and description tags and alt tags and all these things that everybody gets caught up about. And these things are important and they're not difficult to do at the end of the day. But the fundamental thing is the words on the page, because you put words in a title tag, you put words in an image alt tag, you put words in a description tag, you put words on your page. And it's using the words and the phrases that people use when they search Google. Simple as that. And it's not what you think it is, ever.
It's not? It's not?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's kind of like, I would imagine that very few searches get hotels in Sydney. Now, you're not going to compete with that anyway, because you're going to get Novotel and Hilton and all the rest of them are going to be up the top of the pile. And you'll never compete with that. If you've got a tiny little 10-bedroom hotel, you're never, ever going to compete with that. So stop trying to compete with that, because you never will. I think where you can win is you could win where somebody is searching for an affordable hotel that's dog friendly with a view of the harbour. And they might turn that in.
Oh, dog friendly. You put in dog friendly hotel, Sydney. First of all, it's going to be much smaller and it's a very specific question genre. And there's a lot of people who have dogs, the pets that want to bring their doggy with them when they travel.
Yeah. And it's the only way that normal size businesses can compete with the big businesses. I mean, if you look at somebody like Hilton, I mean, they get articles written about them by the financial institutions all day long. They're talked about all the time online. There's articles published all the time online that link to them, that talk about them, that do things, and that increases their popularity. It increases how busy that website is, because
And the brand recognition.
Absolutely. And you're never ever going to get that if you're a little 10-bedroom hotel tucked away in the middle of nowhere sort of thing. You're never ever going to get that. So it's pointless trying to target that type of search, for example. So you need to look at what you do niche. You need to think to yourself, why did I start up in business in the first place? Why am I doing this? What problems am I trying to solve? If I'm just trying to do what everybody else is trying to do, but a little bit cheaper, then you might not succeed. You might, but you might not, because you probably need a little bit more than just, I'm cheaper than them down the road.
Oh, and the thing is too, is that when you have a lot of people doing the same thing, yes, we're all different. We all have a different personality. There's like 800,000, close to 1 million podcasters.
Yeah.
But if you have your own unique style, your own expertise that you're bringing to your audience, then you can stand out. And those people that are attracted to you and that like that style, Joe Rogan is hugely popular, but he's definitely got his own personality and style. And it's a little bit of you don't need to compete with that. But when you're in an industry, let's say with like real estate, if you're a realtor or a real estate agent and you're trying to get people to notice you or to notice your listings that you have, and you're up against these huge companies, these real estate companies that have that brand, and I won't mention any brands because I'm not going to give free publicity unless they're paying me. But when you're up against those big name brands, you do need to stand out. And I've noticed a little bit on social media, some agents, and they're very clever, they'll add, they're still selling a house, right? It's the same, they're selling a house just like the big companies are selling a house. But they have it, they put their personality into it. They'll do it with some humor, which funny goes a long way as far as being viral is concerned. But is there something that someone who, let's say, is a real estate agent and they need to stand out a bit, would they either tweak their website, or if they don't have their own website, maybe their social media pages, would there be something that they might be able to stand out a bit or to get people's attention?
Yeah, for sure. You do the things that the big boys can't do, and that is be local. you answer the questions of the person. You don't just want to buy that house because that house is a house. You want to buy that house because it's in that area, because it's near that school. That school's a good school, and I'm going to send my kids to that school. It's only a few minutes away from a really nice park, which has got all this nice equipment in there for kids to play in. It's also close to the beach, and there's a cycle, and we can cycle from here into the city. And there's all of this which you can fight with, because the big boys won't be interested in any of that. They're just interested in, it's got 3 bedrooms, got a kitchen, got a bathroom, here's the price, do you want to buy it? Whereas if you're a smaller agent, what you can do is you can focus on what people really want from a house and a property, and a lot of that is a location. There's a lot of estate agents in the UK, which is what we call them in the UK, where they focus on school the school ratings and rankings. So this school's better than that school, better than that school, better than that school. It's got a kind of like a very good report from Ofsted and these sorts of things, and you can you can win like that, because you're trying to understand why people want a house in that particular location, instead of the fact that just want a house, because nobody just wants to buy a house. You want to buy it because
No.
of reason.
Yeah, no, because there's millions of houses that I would never want to live in.
Yeah.
It depends, and but for me, because I'm a water baby. I'm a Scorpio. I have 5 planets of Scorpio. I am a water freak, and I want to be near the ocean. I want to smell it. I want to hear it. I want to taste it. I want to wake up in the morning and go, it's salty because of that ocean. So I would be interested in, if somebody was able to appeal to me to that beach flavor. And also what would be very clever is also maybe even checking out if you've got a listing and you notice that the neighbors are not like right up against your windows, you can even highlight that, like, privacy from your neighbors, or your neighbors are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm looking to move at the moment, and I've been looking for probably about the last 4 or 5 months, and I've noticed exactly this. I want to move somewhere which is near a forest, because I love walking through forests, up hills, mountains, things like that. And nobody tells me that. Nobody tells me that in the listing. All they tell me about is the EPC heating rating and the this, that, and the other, and whatever else it is, and the boring stuff. But I want to know about the location. I want to know.
Yeah.
So you end up having to go hunting on Google Maps and things like that, and going down the road and having a look at the house on the road through Google Maps and things, and thinking how far is it, and this could be done by the by the real
Search.
estate agent, for the search, absolutely. So it's kind of fulfilling the actual needs and wants of the customer, really, and that's what Google is trying to do at the same time. So if you're doing it, Google's trying to do it.
To
Fingers
match.
crossed. Google will put you in front of people in the search results. Yeah, sure.
And here's the thing, and I have a question, because I know we had tapped on just briefly to the more technical side with the tags, and that's behind the scenes with the Wizard of Oz, right? It's behind the curtain a little bit on your website, but most people, they will put, and I'm guilty of this as well. I'll put up my website, and I've got my different pages. This is, about Christine. This is my book page. This is my podcast page. This is my, clothing store page, whatever. But it's just that it's a static copy, right? It's pretty much the same. Whatever I put on my podcast book page is pretty much the same. Sometimes I'll add a review so that people, when they come, they can go, oh, other people liked it, so I'll purchase it. But the thing that I've heard, and I want you to tell me if it's true or not, is that the more if you have a blog, if you have something that you're entering information in, or stories, or helpful tips on a regular basis, that you'll do better in the search engine. So my question is, my very long way of getting to it is, Jon, to blog or to not blog? Because some of us are bloggers and some of us are not bloggers.
Yeah. To answer people's questions. So yes, you can use I hate that word blog. A blog is horrible.
It sounds like fog or snog or It's
Yeah, it's
not.
terrible. It's not. You're creating a magazine. You're creating a knowledge base. Think of it like that. So you're not just blogging for the sake of blogging, and you're not just knocking out a blog post every week or every month because you feel you need to. What you're actually doing is you're trying to go niche, and you're trying to go ultra niche. So we're trying to talk about. Trying to talk about those blue jeans in an ultra niche way, about the material, about the stitching, about the size of the pockets, about the designs. Or we're looking at maybe here's 5 different types of jeans you could wear this summer for summer 2020. So you're putting ideas into people's heads about the blog. So it's not the quantity of blogging, it's using the blog sensibly. Because if you've got a product page or a service page, I mean, you could be selling services, products, whatever it is, you can't put every single thing about that product on your product page because it would be 5,000 words long. It would be boring as hell.
Boring. Yeah.
What you can do is you can go ultra niche into each individual little feature and explain it on the blog. So, for example, we'll go back to the frying ranges. The frying range comes with active filtration, with triple filtration thing. But the blog post goes into really in-depth view about that particular feature. So there's videos of how it works and how long it lasts, and there's graphs and charts and articles and things and all this sort of stuff about how long oil lasts in this fryer compared to other fryers compared to somebody else. And it goes in depth because if somebody's researching that specific thing, that specific niche thing, then that's where the blog works, because you can put that information into it. So, for example, if you're selling, I don't know, what could you be selling? You could be selling camping gear, for example. You wouldn't write everything about a sleeping bag on a sleeping bag page because it could go on forever. So let's have a page on down sleeping bags and why you should buy a down sleeping bag and how to wash your down sleeping bag, how to clean your down sleeping bag and all this sort of stuff. Because when there's people searching for things like how do I clean my down sleeping bag, you're introducing your brand again to people who might need a new sleeping bag.
Gotcha. I got you. You're smart, John.
Mm. And it's kind of thinking of the questions that people have.
That's
And what
and
yeah,
that's not an easy
no.
thing, because especially when you have a business, you know, you're dealing with all these things, right? You're dealing with your bills, your advertising, and your marketing, but they're not thinking about it that way. They're thinking, I need to take an ad out, a Facebook ad, and here's the product, here's a link to it, go buy it, which is a very direct way, but it does not seem to to basically come out with a whole lot of progress.
Yeah, it's
So
really difficult to do, really hard to. I think one good exercise you can do is you can imagine if you've got an online business selling services, products, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Imagine that you've got a real shop, a bricks and mortar proper shop with carpet and windows. It looks lovely, and somebody walks into your real shop and they say, "Hello, I'm interested in whatever it is." And you say, "Yes, no problem. What would you like to know?" And then they ask you a question. And then you answer the question. And they follow it up with another question. And you answer that question. And you might do a demonstration of the product whilst they're stood there. Are you doing that demonstration on your website or not? Because that's what they want in real life. That's what they're looking for. And then think to yourself, take all the words on your website and think to yourself, if these are the only words I could speak to somebody when they walk in through my shop, would I sell something? And if all the words on your web page add up to, I need to say more than that, really, because I wouldn't sell this in real life because they're going to ask me like 15 questions. Well, you've got to put those 15 questions into your blog post and answer them. Blog post, blog post, blog post, blog post, and not think of it as a blog. Think of it as a knowledge base for your products, your services, your business, and what you do. So I think that's a really good way of doing it. Is think to yourself, kind of like if all I could ever say is what's on my website to somebody in real life or on the phone, would I sell something? And
right.
that, yeah, yeah, and the answer is
You
probably no.
Yeah, you nailed it. No, you nailed it. Well, that's why so many people too that especially if they're consultants or coaching and things like that, uh they'll bring somebody in maybe through the the quality of the website, the way it looks, right? Because you want to work if you want to work with somebody that is successful, or professional. You don't want to, if you see that their website is really hokey, lots of misspellings and things like that, you're like, no, I don't think so. But that's why they want to get that call. They want to do that strategy call. They want to have you on the phone so that once they can hear your voice, and the potential client or customer can hear you and maybe even see you now with Zoom, then they have a better idea, and you can communicate with them based on their listening skills, based on their personality. But when you don't have that time, when you literally have like a nanosecond, because our attention span is like this,
Yeah.
right? You don't have that kind of time. You don't have an hour conversation with somebody. You need to have something that at least can catch their attention quickly and bring them in, and then to see if they're interested in what you've got and if
Yeah.
they want to learn more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people do, if it's a reasonably big purchase that maybe take a while to actually buy, or it's a service which somebody's offering, people will be doing multiple searches at different times. Don't think for 1 minute that somebody's just going to do a search, find you and buy something. They
Right.
might do a search there might be lots and lots and lots of searches going on now for different things. And you've got to try and appear in those results so that you keep, oh, I've seen them before. Oh, I've seen them before. I've seen them before, and you're answering all the questions for everybody. And I think that's quite important. I think also when we look at websites as well, in particular, having a website that looks good, but not looks good in a fancy pants way. Looks good in a simple, user-friendly way.
Yes, John,
Yeah.
please. Okay, whoever's listening to this or watching this, just another pet peeve, because this is something that I had in the 90s when I had worked as a content consultant. Because I had you remember AOL?
I do.
Okay. Well, I had a column. Remember, they had columnists. They had
Yeah.
people that were actual, like, they had people that were in that industry write these, and they were communities. And so I had a column, and it was an entertainment column. It was like a gossipy entertainment column. And I wrote through a cartoon character called Beatbox Betty. And it was the number one, number two most popular channel on all of AOL, because it was written in a saucy kind of way. So if you were a little kid, you could read it and you go, oh, she's talking about this. And if you're an adult, you can read it and go, I see that little. So thankfully I had the ability to write for a wide range of audience. But what would happen is, after that beautiful stint at AOL, I was a content consultant, and I would go, and these were companies, John, that had spent tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because it was the boom, right? The website boom. And they spent all this money on technology.
Yeah.
And the latest, oh, this picture does this, and all this stuff, and the graphics and everything. But they did not know the user, how we behave. And
Yeah.
how we behave. It's not like a book, like you said. It's not like a manual. We're very visual, and everything needs to be above the fold. And all of their
Oh, yeah.
important information was buried either underneath, way long beneath the fold, or you had to click and click and click and click and click and click to get in and to get the information. Even just contact, it's like, I just want to call somebody. I just want to email somebody and ask them a question. And they would make it so impossible to find out how to contact somebody. And
Yeah.
so it sounds simple, like, of course you would want to make it simple, but no, people make it much more difficult than they need to.
Yeah. It's why we need to think think in more detail about the structure of a web page and how it looks. You're absolutely right above the fold. When you walk into a supermarket, they don't put the stuff they want to sell on the bottom shelf, do they? They put it at eye level. So let's do this with our website, so that the title of the page is descriptive. It solves a problem instantly. It answers a question instantly. You think to yourself, okay, what would people have searched for to find this page? And then you think to yourself, so what do they want to know? And then you write that down. And that is your main title. Then you might have underneath that a little subtitle, a little bit of a summary, which is maybe 2 lines. And all of this appears above the fold. And then we have a call to action button above the fold where people can actually see it, so that you don't have
Yes.
to scroll through 500 words before you get to the form or you get to the call,
If
the
I
lead
gotta
general.
scroll and scroll and scroll to contact you, I ain't contacting you.
Yeah,
Screw it.
jump buttons. Those
Oh,
buttons where you click it and it scrolls down the screen, use those, the jump buttons and things. They're really easy. I mean, we're going back to 1990s web technology here for jump buttons, where you tap it and you scroll down to the form or to the page or for whatever you've got to do. And I think if we think like this, but also think about above the fold as not just your giant, beautiful 24-inch Apple monitor on your desk. Think about above the fold on your mobile phone, because most of your traffic is going to be coming on your phone. So again, look at it on your phone and think above the fold. Does this
oh,
instantly answer the question? Does it get people's juices flowing? Do they want to find out more? Yeah, it's so important being above the fold and putting
yeah.
everything up there. Move your forms up, move your call to action buttons up. If you're selling a product, can we see the price and the buy now button as soon as we load it up?
Yes, and you would be amazed. Well, I know you're not amazed because you know this, but our listeners and viewers might be amazed that there are people too that have spent a lot of years in knowledge in building the technology side of of websites. And yes, they can put a form in or a shopping cart in, but they don't have that. It's a sense. It's no, it's just an easeability sense. And everybody that I work with too, when it comes to if they're going to have a website and they want me just to give them feedback on it, I'm like, you build the website for the phone,
Yeah,
because this is what we have. We have 2 teenagers, and our teenagers are on the phone all the time, all the time. I'm on the phone all the time.
it's like,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
in
come here,
front of my
mate.
desktop all the time, because I am now because I'm doing a show, but this little bad boy is with me everywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's really,
I
really
mean,
important. Yeah.
some industries are seeing 80%, 90% traffic just from mobile phones, particularly the fashion industry, particularly clothing and things like that. 80, 90%. So mobile phone is so important. And also the speed of your website for a mobile phone as well.
Yes.
It's like, it's stop loading photographs up directly from your camera, because your camera takes like ultra HD photos that are as wide as a house. They're giant things. They're 4,000, 6,000, 12,000 pixels wide. And the space on your website is maybe 300 pixels wide, 400 pixels wide for that photo. So we need to reduce the size of that photo to be able to put it in. That will speed our website up. So yeah, there's a huge amount of things we can do to constantly do to our website
And as
to
we're
make it better.
as I'll be doing probably right after this interview, John.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
John, what can I want people, because and I could talk to you forever, and I want to have you come back because I do want to cover so many more aspects. But if people want to work with, so you have the podcast show, Not
Yeah,
Another Marketing Podcast, which
yeah.
everybody should be signed up for right now. We'll make sure that we have links to everything in this show, in the show notes. Also, I know your website, your personal website is JTID. And again, we'll have that listed here, jtid.co.uk. And are you available for people that if they say, I need you, I need your consultation, I'm having trouble with my reach on my website, or I just need some marketing help, are you available?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, always available on email or on Twitter or something like that for people to chat. I mean, the one thing I put together was this course which I've been talking about. It's got a better website for a fiver. You like the name of that,
Yes, it's very
and
cute.
it's £5, and it's basically a list of course material that I've used over the past 20 years I've been doing this. I would have thought that I've reworded, re-put together, and organized it a little bit better and everything, and put it down so you can get hold of PDFs of uh, video tutorials of podcasts of all sorts of things all in one spot. And it'll kind of teach you why you need to do the title tag, why you need to do the description tag, why your images need to be small, why your website needs to be fast, how to do keyword research. We were talking about the words and
Yes.
phrases people use on the page. How do we do this keyword research? How do we find new keywords and new phrases that people are actually using in Google? So it talks an awful lot about that. And one of the reasons I set the price at $5 was that one of the things I've noticed over the years was that the people with the biggest budgets tend to have the best websites. Okay, because you can hire a content marketer, you can hire
A
a
team
graphic
of people.
designer.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And not everybody's got that. And it's not actually that difficult. All you're trying to do for the basic building of your website is to put yourself into your customer's shoes. You're just trying to be your customer, because you are not your customer. No matter how much you might think you are not your customer. You're the person trying to sell something to your customer. So it's nice to be able to put yourself in their shoes, try and think differently about your website, and understand how people interact with web pages. And I think this course, I mean, it's £5 and it gives you loads of information. It's really useful, I think, to
And how do
teach people how to do that.
and how do people get that course? They because at £5 for people that are in America, what is £5? Would you
It's
say?
about $7,
Oh,
$8.
geez,
It's a couple of
that's
coffees.
yeah. It's the price of my little tiny itty bitty book, for crying out loud. That's
Yeah,
nothing. That's
yeah,
nothing.
absolutely,
And where do they?
absolutely.
But
And
where do they go? Where do they go to get that?
at jtid.co.uk, at the top of the page, on a mobile phone, there's a call to action button above the fold.
I love you.
And it says a better website for $5, and you just tap on that and it gives you all the information, and it's kind of like you get
Beautiful.
instant access. Yeah, it is. I think what I've tried to do is simplify things, because like you said at the beginning, it's difficult to explain what SEO is. And to different people, SEO particularly is different things. You can talk to one person who talks about SEO as being an ultra technical thing, and we're talking about schema code and adding all this product markup code to things. And we're looking at trying to get our JavaScript to work faster, and we're looking at tweaking our CSS code and things like that. And it's like, yeah, there is that level to SEO. But to the normal business owner, entrepreneur, startup, we got to get the words on the page right first, because you might have the fastest website in the world, you might have the most beautifully technical website in the world, it might be coded perfectly, and the words on the page are crap, they're rubbish, and nobody's going to buy anything. And you see that quite a lot, to be honest with you, where yeah.
Oh, I am so glad you came on the show, because there's going to be so many people that are going to be able to at least now feel and not be afraid, not be frightened of it. Again, I always want people to think outside of that box. And sometimes you have to take on things that maybe even you're not that comfortable with, but it's going to expand your synapses a little bit. And when it's presented by someone such as yourself, who makes it simple and easy to digest and also affordable, I appreciate this very much,
Mm,
because what you do, you could easily charge a pretty penny for.
yeah.
You could easily charge someone a lot of money for. But what I like is that and I've done this the same with my different webinars, that I brought master teachers to come in and teach about, health or overcoming trauma or starting a new business. I make them extremely affordable, because I want people that can't afford hundreds of thousands of dollars or $1,000. They're on a tight budget, but they have gifts to share with the world as well. They have
Yeah.
passions that need to be, their story needs to be heard just as much as some big corporation, if not more so. So you're making it accessible to people, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that, John.
I
I
think you're
appreciate
right. I
that.
mean, I'm a big proponent of kind of like social mobility and offering people opportunities. I'm big on that, to be honest with you.
Me
And
too.
I think I get asked a lot by students for some training, because I do one-to-one training, and they'll kind of like say, how much is some training or something, because they're doing a marketing course, but it's not really fulfilling what they need, because they go to a company and the company says, can you do this? And they say, can you do a little bit of SEO? And they say, well, no, we haven't been taught anything about that in our 3-year degree in marketing. We haven't taught what, and so they come to you, and then you give them a price or something. Oh, I can't afford that. Can't
Yeah.
afford that. Can't afford that. It's just I'm trying to get a job here, and I think this is if you can afford a couple of cups of coffee,
It's
you can
brilliant.
afford. So it's affordable to anyone.
Well, I'll throw down a $5 to you, John. I'll get it. I'll get it right after this interview. I promise.
An Aussie fiver.
An Aussie $5. Yeah, we have the Aussie, the dollars. They're very pretty here.
Mm.
They're very pretty. They have like a see-through cellophane type thing. But they
Are
have
they
the same.
plastic?
They're
They're plastic.
plastic. I think they're
Yeah, yeah,
plastic. Yeah,
yeah.
they're kind of
Mm.
plastic. But I that's a great offer, and I'll make sure we put the link here so our wonderful listeners and viewers can click on the link and take advantage of this very generous offer from you. My guest today has been Jon Tromans, who is a digital marketing trainer, former broadcaster, and creator of a better website for a $5. Check out his podcast, please. It's called Not Another Marketing Podcast. You can find that on all of the great platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all over the place. And we'll put a link to that podcast as well on the show notes. John, I want to thank you so very much again for joining us today.
Been a pleasure. Thanks, Christine. Enjoyed it.
Oh, I love you. And I want to thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers, for tuning in this week. Remember, if you want to subscribe to that YouTube channel, please do. Hit subscribe, click the bell, run around the poll, whatever you need to do to make sure that you get notified of these programs. If you want more information about the podcast, go to outoftheboxwithchristine.com. And if you want more information about me, just go to christineblasdale.com. Until next time, as I always remind you to think outside of that damn box. Bye for now.